Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a look at Portugal, specifically its intelligence setup, the Sistema de Informações da República Portuguesa. You'll often just see it called SIRP.
That's right. And we've got a source here that really gives a good overview. Its history, how it's structured, the basics.
Exactly. So our mission for you listening is pretty straightforward. Get a solid, concise understanding of Portugal's intelligence agencies, why they're there, how they fit together. We want to avoid getting totally bogged down in details.
Yeah, cut through the noise a bit. It's basically an overview document we're working from detailing SIRP.
And it sets things up nicely, hinting at some, pretty interesting history and a unique structure. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it. So it's starting with today, the Sistema de Informações da República Portuguesa, SIRP. That's the main coordinating body for intelligence in Portugal, established back in 1984.
Okay, 1984. So SIRP sits at the top. And underneath it, it's got two main agencies, right?
Correct. You have the Serviço de Informações de Segurança, that's SIS. They focus on internal security intelligence, think threats, inside Portugal.
Right, internal, SAS.
And then there's the Serviço de Informações Estratégicas de Defesa, or SIED. SIED. That one handles foreign intelligence. So looking at issues, potential threats, that kind of thing, originating outside the country.
Okay, so SI domestic, SIED foreign. Makes sense. And the core job for both, according to our source, it's about producing the intelligence needed to protect Portugal's independence and internal security.
Precisely. That's their fundamental legal constitutional mandate, safeguarding the nation, basically.
Now, SIRP starting in 84, that wasn't the beginning of intelligence work in Portugal, was it? This is where the history gets really significant.
Especially the shadow of PED.
Oh, absolutely. Before the revolution in 1974, you had the PID. That's the Polícia Internacional de Defesa do Estado.
International and state defense police.
Yeah. And it operated very, very differently from SIRP today. It was part of the authoritarian new state regime. Different how? Well, our source makes a key point. Nominally, PIDE was under the Ministry of the Interior. But in reality?
In reality, it was effectively a secret police force.
Yeah.
Controlled directly by the prime minister at the time, Antonio de Oliveira Salazar. It wasn't really accountable in the way we think of now.
So very direct political control, not much oversight.
Not in a democratic sense, no. Later on, 1968, under Marcelo Caetano, it got renamed. Became the Direção Geral de Segurança, DGS. There were some limited reforms, apparently.
But the name change didn't really change the public perception, did it?
No, not really. People still saw it as, the tool of the dictatorship. The association was just too strong.
Which explains why, right after the military coup in 74, the Carnation Revolution PIDAGS was immediately abolished, like first order of business.
Exactly. It was seen as this core symbol of the old regime, something people deeply abhorred. It had to go completely.
And that deep public dislike, that distrust, it really lingered, didn't it? Our source mentions a big gap.
A huge gap. It took over a decade, more than 10 years, before Portugal established a new civilian intelligence agency. That legacy of PDGS cast a really long shadow. There was this profound reluctance, this fear of creating anything that might even resemble it.
Wow. Over 10 years without a dedicated civilian agency. So what finally pushed things forward? What made them create SIRP in 1984?
Well, the early 80s saw some serious security incidents, events that really drove home the need for a proper modern intelligence capability, even in a democracy.
Like what?
Our source points to a few key things.
Yeah.
There was a terrorist attack on the Turkish embassy in Lisbon in 1983.
Okay.
Then, also in 83, the assassination of a PLO representative. That happened during a Socialist International Conference, again, in Lisbon.
Right.
And on top of that, there were various domestic terrorism issues bubbling up. So these events, sort of piling up, highlighted vulnerabilities. They basically convinced the government they needed a new framework.
Yeah.
But one built on law, accountable to democratic institutions this time.
So a direct response to real-world threats, but with a determination to do it differently this time. Okay, let's get into how SIRP is actually set up today. It's ultimately under the Prime Minister, right? Currently Luis Montenegro.
Yes, the Prime Minister holds the ultimate authority, which makes sense given how crucial intelligence is. But what's really interesting is the oversight structure they built in. It seems quite deliberate.
What kind of oversight are we talking about?
Well, there's a Supervisory Council of the SIRP that reports to the Portuguese Parliament, so parliamentary oversight.
And that's one layer.
Then there's a Data Supervisory Committee. This one operates under the authority of the Attorney General of Portugal. So judicial oversight on data handling, presumably.
Parliament and the Attorney General. That definitely sounds like checks and balances, maybe a direct lesson from the PID days, trying to prevent that concentration of power.
It seems very likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Spreading the oversight to prevent the kind of illnesses that happened before 74. There's also a Superior Council of Intelligence mentioned, which probably advises the PM on more strategic stuff.
And running the day-to-day show, or coordinating it, is the Secretary General, currently Grasamira Gomes. What's that role like? Our source says it's equivalent to a Secretary of State.
Yeah, it's a high-level position. Appointed by the Prime Minister, heads up the whole SIRP organization. Their main job is coordinating the directors of SIS and SIE. They're the central point for inspection, supervision, making sure those two agencies work together effectively.
So the main coordinator making sure internal and external intelligence aren't operating in totally separate silos.
Exactly. And reporting directly to the Secretary General, you have an administrative and technical support office, plus 4 joint departments.
Joint departments, meaning shared between SIS and SIE?
That's right. They cover finance and general support, security probably meaning internal security for SIRP itself, human resources, and IT.
Ah, okay. So centralizing those core functions avoids duplication, makes things more efficient, ensures everyone's using the same systems, maybe.
That seems to be the idea. Consistency and efficiency across the board.
Okay, so let's recap the key facts. SIRP formed 1984, Intelligence Service for Portugal. HQ in Lisbon. Budget back in 2018 was around nearly 35 million euros.
Yeah, 34.687 million, to be precise, for 2018.
And the key people currently are Prime Minister Luis Montenegro as the responsible minister and Graça Gomes as the Secretary General running SIRP.
Correct. And the source also lists the websites. www.supi.pt for the main organization, www.sir.pt for foreign intelligence. It notes the SIS website mentioned is historical, so maybe their online presence has changed.
Interesting point. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, Portugal's intelligence framework, SIRP, created in '84, really shaped by the negative legacy of PIDDGS and the need for modern security.
Yeah, and deliberately structured with multiple layers of oversight, Parliament, Attorney General, all under the Prime Minister, trying to balance effectiveness with accountability.
And for you listening, hopefully this gives you that solid foundation, an understanding of where SIRP came from, its main parts, SIS and SIED, and how it's generally organized. It demystifies it a bit.
Exactly. You've got the key pieces now. The history, the structure, the oversight.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given Portugal's really unique and frankly difficult history with intelligence agencies before 1974, how might public trust in SIRP today be different compared to countries without that kind of stark authoritarian past?
That's a great question. And maybe what does that multi-layered oversight we talked about, Parliament, Attorney General, the Secretary General coordinating, what does that really signal about Portugal's ongoing commitment to making sure those past abuses absolutely cannot happen again?
Definitely something to think about, that intersection of history, public trust, and how a modern state handles intelligence. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.